Warning, there will be spoilers in this video. Welcome, I'm ZiggyNo, talking about Collectible Kings Season 3. Just finished watching it and really inspired to make this video by watching Junk Wax Heroes comments in his video on just watching the season. I started yesterday, finished it today. Um, I've watched all three seasons. I don't know if I did reviews in the past, but this one was just too much fun not to comment. And I will say, I'm not going to give stuff away. There's a lot of stuff this video got me to thinking, and I want to share with you. And I love your feedback. So like, comment, subscribe, all that garbage down the bottom below. Please comment. I, Haters, bring it on, man. I don't care. This is good stuff. So first of all, some things that I caught to my attention. 6 episodes, 30 minutes apiece, flew by. I feel like, man, I want more of this stuff. Also, why isn't someone on YouTube not doing something like this? Why don't we do something like this on YouTube? Could you do something like this on YouTube? Okay. First episode talks a lot about the Cheetos art, and I find this really interesting because it gives you kind of a timeline. If you look back to when the Cheetos art story was, it was about a year ago, right? Maybe 18 months. The complete story, right? I think it's funny as they get it. They talk about hyping it up. They talk about using social media. They talk about the video going viral. They talk about news people picking it up. It went for 80 something thousand dollars. I forget about that. It is interesting. They thought they'd be flooded with more Cheetos, and you never see that happening. I don't think the market did either. Like that was like the Cheetos art was it, right? I mean, that was somebody devoured that. What was interesting about the Cheetos art, it did get the attention of this food influencer who actually calls Ken Goldin and would try to make a private offer. Now, here's a couple things I thought are cool about this video. There's several times when auction items are asked to be taken off, and Ken defends by not doing that. So it's something interesting. So this time he tells the guy, "I can't take it off for you, but I encourage you to bid on it." He doesn't, or you don't hear about this influencer, this food influencer, ever bidding on the Cheetos art. But there's a nice tie in there. Also, this does bring to attention Ken's daughter's there, and she talks about the food dude's got millions of followers, and that Ken needs to focus on influencers. So one of the themes of this series, which I find interesting, is it's about there are a lot more about sports cards and a lot more about influencers. Other influencers that are talked about in here include Blez, the Boom Brothers, and Blez Sports Cards. Who else? OnlyFans model Violet Brandy is is on this video. We'll talk more about that later on. It just there's a tone, a story about mushroom tipped. We'll get to that as well. Hang in the video. I think that's important. Okay, so episode one, Cheeto story, food dude, influencers. There's a part of the video where Ken's giving a bunch of gifts to the influencer, and I'm questioning were they gifts or the guy say, "Here's some money, go buy me some stuff." I don't know. You could tell at the end one was a gift. Like Ken gave it to him, and I thought to myself, "Man, that must be a great job. Give me $100,000. I'm gonna go buy you some stuff, and I'm gonna take some money and just give you some at the end." What a job! What a job! Um, I did like the insights of the food collector. I do encourage you to check that out. I think that's an important thing in this story. There's some really great content here. Um, Logan and Wax. Why do I have Logan and Wax as my notes here in number two? Logan Hall, Paul. That's what I'm talking about. They open a bunch of wax in episode number two. Now, what's interesting about this? There's a few things that are open. A T206 box, the basketball box, which all of us talked about early on, and a Chrome hobby box. I don't remember hearing about the Chrome hobby box. I never heard about the T0260 box, and I want to point out they opened the box way back months ago, maybe a year ago, but they don't release the results until this series, which I found that pretty cool. I thought that was compelling TV. I was enthralled. As I watched him open the T206 pack, I thought to myself, Brandon. Brandon does the vintage packs. My God, Brandon's gonna have a heart attack if he ever sees that. I wanted to clip it, but you can't clip social media off of Netflix anymore. Anyway, um, good video. You get to watch him open a T206 pack. It was interesting, educational. I didn't know about the cigarettes and all the stuff that's in there. It's really cool. Chrome box. What I didn't like about that is as they're talking about it, Logan Paul's, what if we hit that $1 million card? And it went from a $2 million card to a $6 million card to like an $8 million. And they never come close to the Curry card. And I think it's ridiculous to even bring that up. They do pull a bunch of cards out of there, and they pull some cards out of the basketball, and they give these valuations. Oh, these cards are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're gonna get them graded, but they never give you a follow up on that. And that kind of bothered me. I wish they get a follow up on what did your cards grade? I mean, you guys opened a bunch of old wax. I'm gonna bet it didn't grade well because if it did grade well, you would have put it in the video. But it was an interesting part of the video. Um, they talk about Pez dispensers, and there's a bunch of other most is sports cards, but there are some other stories. Pez dispensers, motorcycles in this. I forgot what else. There's a couple things that come to mind. Um, Mostly cards, though. A lot of it's cards. I thought Pez dispensers, what was interesting, they talk about this, they never show you results from that as well. And I'm thinking to myself, Pez dispensers are terrible collectibles. There's an actual video on that, the Pez Pirate or something like that on Netflix. Pez is terrible. Auction. Oh, then they talk about, okay, one of the dudes, he's got his buddy, his brother, his Pizan, who he has him auction off the Caitlin Clark one of one card. Short story. During the auction, the card does not appear to be going well. Like with a day left, it's like at $30,000, and the guy said he got a private offer for 100 grand, and he asked the guy to take it off, and they don't take it off. What's cool about this story? You have to watch the story. The entire time I'm watching this, I thought to myself, shilling. That's all I thought to myself in my head. I'm not saying they did that, but the pressure there is that these guys want this card to perform well, right? They want the card to do well, and then you start seeing the card change prices. I'm thinking to myself is what's Goldin's policy on shilling? Can they bid on their own cards? Right? Is one guy bidding on it to make it go up so somebody else is out there, biting the lure? I don't know. That's all I thought about after all the stories we've seen about shilling and who can shill and who doesn't shill. And again, I'm thinking Goldin's part of eBay, so I don't think they can shill. That's all I thought about that. Shilling and the pressure for shilling. And this guy's talking about, it's his buddy, he doesn't want to let his buddy down. That's what I came across with watching that video. I encourage you to watch it. Tell me if you don't think the same thing. Not that I'm saying anybody does it, but it just gets in your mind when you see that pressure. Oh, I want this guy's card to go worth money, and somebody offered him this much money, and oh man, it's a very, very interesting story. Um, Other influencers, they do an episode in Japan. I thought that was really, really interesting. They talk about quota. They're going out there to get stuff. Lot again, big cards, big basketball card. One card there I want to check the comps on was a LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama, flawless 1 of 1 from his rookie dual patch last year. Does anybody know what that went for? Because again, the guy here says he got an offer in China for 1 million. So it got me thinking about a couple things there too. Why would you leave? Why would you move that card out of China on a video? Through Japan to the United States to get money. Like, don't you think the Chinese government, or I don't know, that's a lot of money to be moving around. I'm surprised by that. And if you're moving that stuff through customs, you have to declare on the plane ride. You got to be carrying this stuff back on the plane, right? You can't in your seat. Like, you don't put that. Just that's what I thought to myself. They're bringing back millions of dollars of cards from Japan, China for the Goldin auction, which is really cool. And I want to check the comps on. I didn't do that because I want to get this video out. I'll do that later on. Talking really fast. Um, but again, very, very interesting. The reach there, Blaze. Not too much Blaze, but just enough Blaze that I'm sure you're going to hear about Blaze because he's going to talk about, I was on the Netflix show. There's a Blaze. Um, Big cards to keep your eye out for. There's a Jordan, the LeBron Victor results. I didn't find the results on that. And I talked about moving cards. Okay. Here's a really, really interesting story. I talked about the Cheetos art story, another great story in this. And again, I was really found it interesting. They kept this story quiet and timed news releases to right now, the 23rd and 24th of December, of a Honus Wagner find. What I love about this is it shows Ken playing with his kids, and somebody says, "Hey, we found a Honus." Like, yeah, tell him to call back. No one ever has a Honus. And then he realizes it's real, and he gets on a plane, and the story takes off. And it's a cool story. I don't want to ruin that. That's really one of the best parts of this video. Check it out. I'm curious what comes of that. I assume those auctions are going to go up. The Shields collection, I think it's referred to, the ton of those cards. It was a beautiful collection, and it made you also hear these none of these cards were graded. They were in a case for a grandfather's, had them for 100 plus years in the family, and a couple things come to mind thinking about this right now. Some of the valuations that Ken gives that he expects these cards are going to get, and some of the ones his employees make, like, oh, I think this is worth a 500,000. I think it's going to get you. I find that interesting. I wonder, um, does that create the pressure that they create where they go, oh, this is going to go for that? Then when it's going on the auction, doesn't get there, and then does that create pressure? It's just a very interesting space. I think Ken at one point tells the family it's a couple $1 million card. If it comes in a PSA one, then he tells them it's going to be, probably 4 to 6 million. And one of the guys, yells out, yeah. I mean, I think that's life-changing money. I'm pretty sure if the family member knew it was worth that much, they probably would have sold that thing. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's just some of the stuff I find interesting. It'd be interesting to see where that card ends up closing at compared to what the family was told. Also, this whole video is a complete glaze um, Ken Goldin. Like, it's just Ken Goldin, Ken Goldin, Ken Goldin, Ken Goldin, Ken Goldin. Junk Wax Hero's wife made a comment about that. I thought that was very appropriate. Um, Providence. I want to talk about Providence. And there's two items in this video series and the 6 episodes that I find interesting. Well, actually, I'll talk about three. There is a gun that's claimed to be Capone's, a jersey that when Messi wore when he was 10, and the motorcycle last used by Elvis Presley. Now, This just brings up the question of how do you create provenance? How do you know these things are legit? Who does this? Who authenticates it? They don't talk about that. A gun, they show a picture of a Capone with a gun. They show you the gun. Oh, yeah, this is it. You can photo match it. I'm like, dude, if anything, what I would do is I'd look at the photo and then I go out and find a gun or create a gun that matches the photo. If I want to create a fraud, that's how you do that, right? If people are going to be dumb enough to go, oh, the photo looks like the one that's in my hand, then you're an idiot. I just don't find that as being a form of authentication. I think that's weak authentication. In the security world, that'd be considered poor. Jersey for a 10-year-old. So this one guy is showing his buddy how, this jersey was worn by Lionel Messi when he's 10 years old. And again, they don't really talk about the one guy. Just we're gonna have to authenticate that. But once you get authenticated, I'm pretty sure we can get like I think he says 100,000 or 500,000. We're gonna break the record. So I'm thinking to myself, again, who is buying this jersey? Like, are you really believing that I don't know. It just found it awkward to me. Versus they had Elvis Presley's motorcycle. And in this example, you did have Providence. You had the certificate signed by Elvis Presley, the registration. You had the bill of sales. There's a legal process. It just made me think to myself the difference between collectibles and collectibles, right? Like even the guy made a comment, motor collectibles. I don't know if it's motored because they then have licensing and registration and Providence because of governments. I don't know, but there was a clear, like my mind went off right there, man. Huge difference here in this Providence thing, talking about the difference between, a gun, a jersey, and a motorcycle. Last point. They close on the National, so you could assume this thing was potentially last filmed. There was in July when they cut this thing, and then you have this content coming out now. There's a couple awkwardly arrogant videos of Ken. There's a great clip in there of Ken with this beautiful girl at the National showing her a card, I think a Pokemon card. It's only clipped, maybe 2 seconds, but that is Brandy, Violet Brandy, who is a sports card OnlyFans influencer. I find it very amazing that Ken chose her to clip and put in his Netflix video. I don't know if he did or didn't mean to do that, but I do want to break everybody's attention to that. How do I know? Because Ziggy knows all. I know everything. Last point I want to make. I was really disappointed I didn't get more Alex Giammo. Big fan of Alex. I think she's more connected in the sports card hobby than some of these guys that were on the show. In fact, every time they talked about sports cards, I almost cringed. Like I could feel collectors out there gasping like vampires were talking about blood. The young kid, the young guy, I just felt like every time he started talking about how much, like he's like, oh, I just love the collectors, so I can make so much more money off of them. I can make so much more commissions. He didn't say that. That's all I felt him saying was, I cannot wait to sell your stuff and make more money off of you. If I can get you to sell one thing to me, I can sell all your shit. It was not a very pro collector show. I don't think it was. But it really was about collectibles and the industry. A lot at the end, there's an acquisition of a movie studio who's doing auctions. I think that's very interesting. The space has a lot of opportunity to grow. It's an unregulated, clearly unregulated auction areas. It makes me want to open my own auction house. It really does. I mean, everybody, it just seems like anybody can do that. But overall, great entertainment value. I'm not gonna say great series like it should win an Emmy, but I'd like to see more Alex in the future. I'd love to hear Alex do some more stories. Maybe think of also too, watching Alex at the National. Was she at the National? I guess it was Fanatics Fest. Fanatics Fest when she was competing. I wonder if they'll show Fanatics Fest in the future. I wonder if that becomes part of it. In fact, I'm surprised that was not part of it, considering all the cool stuff that was there. Oh, Pokemon. Ken selling that Pokemon card that was around the knucklehead's neck for a long time. What else? Did I forget anything else? I don't know. I know I gave a lot of information here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Man, God, I love this hobby.